Hail the Barbarian Horde! I'm Joe, and I've got a new video for you all, this time Hour of the Dragon. So anyways, let's get back to over-analyzing this book. Now, let me just find my place in the essay I wrote. In a lot of ways, this is a story that almost every Conan story had been building up to, with Nemedia being mentioned and others appearing in a variety of prior stories. The interesting thing about a great many pastiche stories by later authors is that they really did expand upon Nemedia and its role in the mythos, so that in this way they presented a land that seems fairly Grecian, if with knights of medieval Germany, England, Scotland, Spain, or France, and the rest of Europe. My view on this strange combination is that it is not an altogether far-fetched one, as there was at least one Greek emperor who at one time flirted with knights and chivalry. And when I say that, I mean with the idea of knighthoods, not actual knights like him going out and flirting with them. As the conflict between the two nations, it seems relatively similar to the 100 Years' War that took place between the Old Alliance, Scotland and France, versus England. That ran from 1297 to 1453 AD. Nemedia waxed strong, as those who are familiar with the mythology know quite well, while Aquilonia remained weak and divided under bad leadership. The trouble was that from the moment that Conan steps up and becomes a general, he begins to destabilize the kingdom with his presence, as he is a great alternative, a perfect one in fact, for anyone hoping for change. The Cimmerian is, after all, a leader in all. The year of the dragon had birth in war and pestilence and unrest. The black plague stalked through the streets of Belverus, striking down the merchant in his stall, the serf in his kennel, the knight at his banquet hoard. Before it, the arts of the leeches were helpless. Men said it had been sent from hell as punishment for the sins of pride and lust. It was swift and deadly as the stroke of an adder. The victim's body turned purple and then black, and within a few minutes he sank down dying, and the stench of his own putrefaction, wow, I can't read today, was in his nostrils, even before death wrenched his soul from his rotting body. A hot, roaring wind blew incessantly from the south, and the crops withered in the fields. The cattle sank and died in their tracks. The first paragraph of the second chapter of the book is noteworthy for the fact that it establishes the scene, the setting, and the tone of the rest of the book. It is mind-numbingly and mind-blowingly depressing, simply because of the fact that plague has swept through the land of Nemedia. Howard establishes here that though he's used Nemedian kings as antagonists in earlier Conan stories, the Nemedian people are not to blame. They have had their royal family torn asunder and their nation, in this manner, brought to its knees. It is interesting, therefore, that Howard should choose the dating system for the year of this Hyborian Age story, that of the Hour of the Dragon. Naturally, this is also the title of the book. Yet it is a solid title on his part. However, it must not be disregarded that he would have chosen this name with great care. Being an autodidact and a well-read author, he would have known that the dragon has devilish connotations, just as it is also a primordial mythological creature with the stories of the Hydra, Orochi, and other great reptilian beasts, so that it appears throughout folkloric history. The thing that is most interesting, though, is that the devil was connected to disease and suffering, so as to declare it something akin to the Hour of the Dragon, is in this context to relate it to a devilish year of sorts. Men cried out on Mitra, and muttered against the king, for somehow, throughout the kingdom, the word was whispered that the king was secretly addicted to loathsome practices, and foul debauches in the seclusion of his knighted palace. And then in that palace death stalked, grinning on feet, about which swirled the monstrous vapors of the plague. In one night the king died with his 3 sons, and the drums that thundered their dirge drowned the grim and ominous bells that rang from the carts that lumbered through the streets, gathering up the rotting dead. That night, just before dawn, the hot wind that had blown for weeks ceased to rustle evilly through the silken window curtains. Out of the north rose a great wind that roared among the towers, and there was cataclysmic thunder and blinding sheets of lightning and driving rain. But the dawn shone clean and green and clear. The scorched ground veiled itself in grass. The thirsty crops sprang up anew, and the plague was gone, its miasma swept clean out of the land by the mighty wind. Men said the gods were satisfied because the evil king and his spawn were slain, and when his younger brother Tarascus was crowned in the great coronation hall, the populace cheered until the towers rocked, acclaiming the monarch on whom the gods smiled. Such a wave of enthusiasm and rejoicing as swept the land is frequently the signal for a war of conquest. So no one was surprised when it was announced that King Tarascus had declared the truce made by the late king with their western neighbors void, and was gathering his hosts to invade Aquilonia. His reason was candid. His motives loudly proclaimed, gilded his actions with something of the glamour of a crusade. He espoused the cause of Valerius, rightful heir to the throne. He proclaimed, not as an enemy of Aquilonia, but as a friend, to free the people from the tyranny of an usurper and a foreigner. As we can see, the people are reduced to such desperation that they are happy when Tarascus shows up, riding down on a white horse. Little do they realize, he's not so much a grey eminence, but rather a false hero presented to the masses as a conquering one. It is very deceitful and a very despicable thing to do this to a people, and yet the people are relieved to have a young, brilliant, ebullient hero to call their own. They are likewise encouraged into hating and blaming the Aquilonians without just cause. You see this all throughout history. A people needing someone to blame might be whipped up to hate someone else, though there's never not been a sword blow struck. It shows the level of wickedness of the conspirators that they could treat the people so, terrifying them with a plague only to trick them into warring with a neighbor who has done nothing to them. It is also very interesting and shows the level of cunning and skill for theatrics of these villains. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, and that, if you're feeling particularly generous in the coming weeks, we will be announcing a crowdfund on June 1st, or around that time, one which will just need $300 for an anthology we're compiling and we're editing on behalf of other writers. Now, on the other hand, let's try to, get to 260 subs, and, well, I'll make sure I get a video out for you next week that's continuing this line of thought. So do take care.